Okay.
My family, yes, not in her family.
Identical twins are just kind of like a spoof of nature.
I'll
They
have
don't
to
know
introduce
why
you.
they have
I'm
them.
introduced.
Apparently taller people are more
It's the
likely
first
to have
meeting with Dan.
And they're more short. Like,
See you.
it. 6'2", which you two.
But it's fun to see them grow.
I was gonna say, we got our little girl through the health fertility center. And we asked our doctor there, because you hear stories all the time about, fertility treatments produce twins and couples.
Yeah.
And I said, doctor, what causes that? Why are twins and couples so common? She's like,
How are you an identical?
Yeah.
okay, thanks, doc.
All I know is that before 12 days after conception, if it's past that, if they try to split, they'll be conjoined twins. If it's before that, but the closer you are to 12 days, the closer you are to being mirror image twins. So me and Elena, they can tell when we split because the closer you are to 12 days, more complications that the pregnancy will have. So for example, me and Elena, we were mono twins. We shared an umbilical cord and pregnant. That only happens if you divided closer to 12 days and half. And then because of that, we're mirror image twins. So like parts of our body are reversed of each other.
Interesting. So just running the heart of that.
Luckily not that severe, but it can be that severe.
Yeah.
No, but the only reason I'm I write right-handed is because my teachers refuse to teach me left-handed, but I'm
Yeah.
left-handed otherwise.
So you're ambidextrous.
I am, and I started sword fighting classes, and they were watching me do right-handed, go like switch hands.
You should have learned it, and then you could have pulled the Princess Bride.
I know,
But I
no, but if you know one side, you can switch to the other side. So
Okay.
I'm ready for this here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
yeah, I'm kindergarten and first grade teacher both made me write with my right hand.
Interesting.
So like our hair swirls are backwards, we have freckles reversed with each other. So when our teeth came in, we have x-rays of this, our doctors of this. It was bizarre. When our teeth came in, whatever one was crooked or twisted was reversed on the other one's mouth.
That's so great.
Okay.
They're like, that doesn't happen unless you were like almost conjoined.
Okay, I think I checked the doors. I'm glad I did. I found our council member outside.
My key was home.
So, but I don't know if Brittany's heard from Brittany. So, we can go ahead and get started. Ju.
I call this meeting to order on June 20th, 2024.
Great. First item of agenda is in our ordinance. Actually, it says we have to re-elect a chair and a vice chair every year. That isn't to say that Olivia and Devin have done a terrible job. They've done a phenomenal job, I think, for this commission coming together for the first time. We reestablished it last year, so I think we can take nominations to keep them in place. If we're happy, if the commission's happy with what they're doing, we can also take nominations for something different.
That's what they're doing.
Am I happy? Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And they make the motion, and we just keep them.
Okay, so you'll make the motion to keep Olivia Johnson and Devin Pierce as the chair and vice chair respectively. You have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I
I
have to add that too. I seconded it. So I
Right,
forgot.
oh, I failed to mention, we do have Councilmember Kopak, who's our liaison from the city council here.
And I don't vote, so
I apologize for not.
Good to have you.
thank you. Good to be here. Thank you.
We're glad to have Lon going back after some health concerns. But we're doing well, Lon.
Yeah, about my health concerns.
I just said you were absent from
I was.
previous meetings and our tours,
Yeah,
so
because I've had
glad
some,
to have you back.
well, thank you. I've had some really kind of scary things happening in my life.
So sorry. Got your back.
Yeah.
Keep you in our thoughts and do what we can to help you. So I thought we took care of the re-election, so I would need to turn the time to a couple of our members, and I'll invite you as well, Chris, to share some of your thoughts from attending the Preservation Utah conference last week. So I don't know who wants to go first, or we can kind of just workshop and discuss open.
So I did track 3, which was more of the environmental history preservation and how like to incorporate that more with like city preservation and like, it's like there's pieces of nature, you know, you don't want to like completely destroy like historical like environment when trying to preserve other, like you gotta like find that balance and keep them both together, because that's really how you like preserve like the history of the area. It's not just focusing on the buildings or not just focusing on the environment, but like if there's a building on a piece of land, then you work together to make sure that the land is also historically preserved.
Cool.
So it was very interesting.
I bounced between track 1 and 2. It was interesting. I feel like they focused a lot on creating more housing in historical buildings, which I thought was interesting. There was kind of a big kind of focus and push on that.
You know, it's kind of interesting. They said some of these houses going down, and you know why they take them down, because it's more, the land is more valuable than the house.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take it down, and the families are taking it, let's make the most money we can.
But a lot of this was like old factories and things like that, saying we need to make sure we keep these and then turn them into housing. So I thought that was an interesting take, to like turn bigger historical buildings that are older
When
into housing.
when I lived in Georgia, there was an entire historical district and all of the buildings had been turned into campus housing for the university in the area. And so the old factory was transferred, like turned into apartments. They were really cool. They were like the original brickwork and the pipes and stuff were kept, but they were made structurally sound.
Yeah.
They were very cool. And there was like an entire district of this, is like 6 or 7 buildings, factory lots. So I like that. I mean, if we ever need to figure out what to do some with schools.
Come up with anything on the survey they went to.
We'll cover that in a few minutes. Any other takeaways from the conference?
I was mostly on track 2, and with all of those sessions in the afternoon, they had to do it. I was going to do the first part and get back to work, but found it very helpful. What they were mainly focusing on during track 2, and Kristen and I sat in class together on that one for Ogden, but it was basically, I'm just talking about revitalization of Main Street and how they were able to pull in outside, you know, people coming to shop and do whatever else they did by creating some environments and some things that we already do. Yeah, like the car show and several other things, the farmers market, things that one already has. So I think we could actually take and tweak slightly some of those and really enhance. And our Main Street is what, it's 5-6 months.
Well, and that's the difference, I think, between like
They have
Orem and
these
so many
small
other.
blocks.
Yeah, and I used to live on 24th Street, so 25th Street
Yeah.
is there.
So it was really cool. That was her
I
home.
lived on 24th Street
So
in
we did
Ogden,
too.
and they built townhouses behind the buildings and the apartments above the shops anyways. So I lived there 20 years ago, just about, almost 20 years ago. And so we were at the beginning of the big transformation of things, and it's really cool to see what they've done, but that's the difference between Ogden and so many other cities in the world. We don't really have, they have a nice downtown area. We don't really have a downtown. That's not something that we have.
Yeah, that's the big dip. And that was in the restoring main streets and zoning one. And they're talking about how like the zoning codes of today won't allow us basically to build these old historic things. Like, well, we don't have
we don't have that.
But it'd be cool. Let's like say, hey, could we create a place?
Yeah.
That could kind of factor in.
And I think if you call Staten Center kind of like the center of the city, we do have the nice park and it's kind of city hall.
Yeah, we have a city center.
So we could kind of create some kind of a district within.
Kind of
So if we were creating,
we have a node here. Really.
Well, look what we already do. You know, the lights in December and all I mean, just it all culminates. So anyway, thought process.
In 100 years, maybe this will be a historic center.
But it was a great conference to attend, and lots of great ideas, and
I'm
I
glad we
enjoyed it.
yeah.
Thanks. It was fun to be together with everybody.
I just hate to see these single houses that are out there. There's this story, and they're just being torn down for family.
Well, and I would love to see Orem kind of take more love and care into some of these older houses and preserve those. I've talked about this before, but living in Columbus, Ohio, that I lived in a house like that where the city bought the house, tore it down to the studs, and rebuilt it back up and sold it at cost to people so that they could preserve these older homes and the areas. What does Springfield do?
Springfield, you know what they do? They take the rent they get here,
Yeah.
and they just simply say, if you've got an older home, we'll give you a grant of $10,000 to fix up your home. And then let them apply for that grant.
Yeah.
And they,
Yes.
I attended there was a session on that, and I attended his session. He talked all about that. It's the first one.
yeah, that's something that they do, and I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That the reason I say it, it's a home called Skinner Home.
Yeah.
And that home's been torn right out. And I just felt that. And then there's another house that I'm hoping they don't do something with. It's on just down the block from me. It's a home where the family,
Oh, yeah. Walt.
family, he just
Yeah, in the
passed
corner. Yeah.
this house, but
Across from
Jack
Charlie's.
Dempsey was
Yeah.
actually trained in that house. And it's got a real
The
significant.
Walt was a fine carpenter craftsman.
He was.
He
I just
remodeled the whole
They
thing.
got the house up for sale. I
Oh,
just
do
hope they don't sell it to somebody that will just tear it down for the property. And
Yeah.
it's got all
And
kinds
across
of-
the street, did you see what they did? They kind of fixed up that older home too on the corner that belonged to
Yeah, they have,
Chatterley. So
yeah, where the chatter.
What I love seeing, and like, I know in Pleasant Grove, they do those old homes
yes,
are turned into like businesses.
yes, that too.
And like as
No,
part,
you
like
can,
you said, you can go in and have an in-store
Mhm.
marker, but then people are using these places still.
Yeah.
Again, it's
Like-
just a different thing, because like, we don't have like streets.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, Provo Center also out in a little bit. You get some of the businesses. There's insurance companies, even the Berg Mortuary, kind of along that block with the old pioneer homes. Their businesses now. Yeah.
You know, I just hate to see that some of these homes torn down.
I feel like Orem's just very unique because we don't have,
It grew like this instead of like this.
well,
They grow along the highway rather than.
and there were so many orchards and things that
Broke it up.
broke it up. So it was more like a farm town with all the little farms and not really a.
It's almost like, back to your environmental thing too, it's almost like we create a orchard preservation kind of thing.
That'd be
That's,
cool.
I mean, what's the one, the
To-
pine?
I know that.
Is it the Pine Family Orchard?
Oh, the one Crandalls are right here on
There's
Center
Crandall's
Street.
too, but there's
An
also
orchard
the
here.
Pine one.
Really?
Yeah.
Not quite to east. I'm trying to remember which south. What south, like the Pine Family Orchard, I think that they're trying really hard to preserve their.
Mhm.
I think we should look for those kinds of places because those are also very important to our history. Like,
Sure.
this was farmland. We had, and you gave us that wonderful talk about how this was like just an orchard as far as the eye could see, and we're losing that.
And then there's also the, they do like their fall festival thing.
Oh, Wilkerson.
Yeah, Wilkerson Farms as well. They're a good one too.
As you say, every time I turn around talking to my wife, I said, "Sure." Exactly. Yeah.
They are, it's just hard to see these properties that people are the older people, you know.
Yeah.
And they want the money. It's a way of getting them to know what happened. Fixing things up and maybe turning down.
Yeah,
Doing.
the sad thing, the market, how the market is,
It's crazy.
it's kind
Yeah,
of,
that's.
it's
what
the
you think
dollar
right now.
signs are a little higher for selling it.
Yeah.
But there still may be a possibility for creative ways to preserve some things. And that's what we can look into. council.
Yeah.
But there are examples of houses, homes that have been fixed up and used. The house next to me, I live on 8 South Main, please. House next to me is where the second bishop of Orem lived. That's right there. That house right on the corner. And it's been an insurance agency.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then they rent the upstairs to students.
Right.
This kind of ties into the session I went to, which is all about like, how do you get your community excited?
Yeah.
And not just excited, but buying in, and then actually almost letting the community members lead the preservation efforts. And how can we really, we've had such a long absence of this commission, so it hasn't been present, it hasn't been focus in higher level discussions. So I think highlighting some of these old homes and the value that they've been repaired, and how cool is it that we have this historical tie back to Orem's history, celebrating them in that way, right?
But I think because we don't have a downtown like so many other cities do that have a lot of these historic districts, ours really will be the homes and the orchards and farms and things like that. Preserving those might be a more appropriate way to highlight Orem's history.
Yeah, and like we learned from the touring the Olmsted program, like best we can work with them as a community partner to celebrate that. It's a really iconic piece of that history.
Another one that I went to, another lecture, was about working with people who may own these properties who are not part of like SHPO or other historical agencies, and helping them get the things that they need to be the best preservationists that they can for their property, but not necessarily making them have to join in on like SHPO or whatever other historical agency wants to. They could join that are in the state, because a lot of people fear that as if they turn their land or their property over, they'll lose the right to do what they want on their property. But if they remain like a non-agency preservationist, then they can have more say on their land, but still be able to receive grants to preserve their land.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll have to like, there's like a fine meshing point that I think a lot of people who don't want to turn their properties over to become a historical place, but they need help, like to maintain that property as historical.
And a little education too. I think my understanding, even if you get it designated, it doesn't mean you have to. It has to stay in a time capsule, right?
Yeah.
in a box, preserved perfectly. You can still adjust it.
They were talking about how a lot of the mines, so that it was a miner, he owns a lot of gold mines. They were talking about how they have historical mines that they still use, and they've had to walk a balance of making sure that the land that they are maintaining the history of those mines, even if it's moving the historical like piece of equipment out and into another like a side shaft or whatever, so that it's still visible, like the public can go into that part of that mine, but then they can divert and continue their operations that they need to do, but that piece of is still like preserved.
Yeah.
So there's options.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know that there's options.
That was wonderful. How often do they do meetings like that? Is that a kind of
It's an annual kind of. I was able to go 2 years ago. It was held in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
What was last year?
But it's nice to rotate. It was nice. It was close.
Yeah, yeah.
And the old Academy.
I
That
was
was
able to
a
go
great-
last minute.
That was a great thing.
It was super good.
Yeah. It's a good one to go to.
Well, thanks for sharing, and glad we can attend it. I want to make sure we keep. I'll maybe create a document. We can document some ideas. Sure. Just rather just in the minutes and the recording. Kind of a working document. Updates. I sent an email to everybody just celebrating the exciting news. I think it's still groundbreaking. We're the first city commission to apply for a care grant.
Yay, us!
We were awarded the $5,000 of our request. I think the one we presented to them, they had some really good follow-up questions. I think is a good amount to to kind of start with,
Good seed money.
yeah, get some good seed money to, and might even be enough for us to do a little.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to recognize Cranford. Doing such an awesome job.
thanks.
Well done. Making that presentation.
Yeah, no, I'm
Way to
I'm
go.
happy to help, as, helping this commission,
Did
I'll
you
let you-
twist Dave and Jeff's arm really good?
I think so.
It's nice that it's friendly faces here.
Yeah.
Giving a presentation too.
So I'm excited to kind of, from what I've heard from this, they'll kind of contact me and let me know what the next steps are for disbursement of the funds and how that's going to be structured. And then we can, I think, create kind of a timeline of what that looks like and what we present it to them, what we've kind of talked about the ideas. And I'm waiting to hear back from city manager's office, their suggestion to connect with the interior design team.
Nice.
See, get some of their professional recommendations of what the interiors will be in finish.
Well, and I loved that in the presentation, they really liked the idea of the Orems in it.
Yeah,
So I think that that's another way that we can help bring the public into.
I think that would be really good. They can just find pictures.
Yeah.
We're fine with that. I've been toying with that idea for a long time.
I just found an old disc that has some of your photos on it.
Yeah.
Can we create also a little book or something that we could sell for some of the folks that are
Yeah,
interested?
that's a great idea. I mean, we have an old booklet on here.
Back when I was involved in
That's the
scouting,
one that-
what I always share, it's the history of
Okay, there's another booklet I'll grab for you at the end of the meeting. It's just some of these specifically historic structures and
Fantastic.
places.
I think we should survey the public for their history stories and combine that in a book with some of Lon's pictures.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to like
I know
integrate.
where I got mine from. I put an ad, my wife used to write for the Orange Geneva Times. And so I put an ad in the Orange Geneva Times free. And they published it, and that's how I got it. Frequency. But we don't have a newspaper anymore
Yeah.
that does that. Even the Herald wouldn't do it because they don't have very much.
But we do have a city website.
I was gonna say,
And
that's
that's,
Facebook.
and Pete could probably help us with
We
that.
have a
Our
library.
communications man.
We have a library, and there's also, like, with the library, there's a photo collection with UVU library.
Yeah.
And what I brought when we did toward the museum last year, I was like, how many of those photos in that set at the museum are digitized and
Yeah.
cataloged?
We need to do that.
Maybe very few. And so I mean, we got some cool projects. I think we can start like keeping track of some focus
there-
areas.
I do think that then and now's a really good thing.
That's a
Well,
great
and
idea.
are there, like
Good for
students at UVU in some sort of strong thing that
Intern,
hours, yes, to do
hours.
things because digitizing photos would probably,
Yes, there's
Yeah,
no
great.
track on it.
yeah, know what I'm saying, like getting students to do it or to get hours.
They have an
for
entire,
lead.
like, they have an entire department.
My father-in-law is an amateur photographer and he's probably taken hundreds of thousands of pictures and I've exaggerating that, and he would pay his kids to scan them all to digitize all the old pictures from like the 80s on.
Cool.
So just saying, like, you could probably get kids.
Well, and there's even a technical layer with the UVU architecture school. I'm not sure if there's for farming, but the architecture program there, they just released this new specialization that's in historic architecture. So I think there's going to be a technical layer of expertise that they'll have that they can provide to the city as well with respect to structures, but then also that the layer of that's embeds with places and stories of places. So, yeah. But yeah, then and now, especially with the technology now, we could say, at the conference, I was chatting with one of the planner from Springbrook who gave a presentation about zoning Main Street. And he was showing me, he's also a photographer. And it seems that, I mean, myself as a photographer, it's always a surprise sometimes to someone, but he showed me these sliders when we worked at Provo and they had done these photo overlays of historic photo of the photo, and then they painstakingly try to match it with the current photo. And then the slider is kind of this net
Yeah.
That's what they call.
And so I have a couple photographs that I found from the, and there's one of workers picking a cotton, maybe, or near, it has to be near the border, but Timpson right in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, it's on my list, it's been on my list for a while, I'm trying to go find
Either cotton or
a
sugar
similar point of view, right?
Yeah, either one, cotton or sugar beets.
Sugar beets, probably
Because we had a
sugar
big sugar beet, sugar.
My
beet.
wife-
yeah.
My wife did an awful lot of writing of historic things. I've got every one of her papers that, she saved every one of the papers.
Is it Orange Geneva Times?
It's digitized.
It's digitized, right?
It is, you can get it online.
Okay.
Yeah,
All,
it
everything.
is, but there is so much on there. She did interviews with the guy that was, it was a person who worked on the railroad. His dad was
Mhm.
the tracks person over the tracks.
For the Orem Railroad or down by
The
Geneva.
one that went,
Orem, the old sugar beet.
and he talked about how he was on the tracks line and talked about his experience of being, growing up with the trains and stuff.
Nice.
It's really interesting.
But come back, I was no, it's different.
Okay.
It might be some, I've seen that book, we might end up needing to buy that book.
I have it.
I love the book idea, that we could come up with the book and with the cabin, this is kind of a good segue to the cabin. The cabin efforts, I'm happy to share that, and I don't know if I shared this before, I may have, but that was fully funded from the city council to pursue hiring of the restoration company to restore it. So we're in the process of finalizing that. And they came and did a tour. And I was out of town for a conference and wasn't able to try to arrange that at the same time. But if there would be interest for us as the commission to go down and look at that cabin as it is currently instituted,
This
see
is
what it looks
Nelson's
like.
Grove, right?
Um,
Or the other.
it's down by the Public Works
Okay,
water treatment location,
okay.
Waste Street.
Besides the.
But I thought that was kind of like what I said is maybe we could go down and see the current historic cabin and what it looks like, and we could go toward Nelson's Grove and kind of a throwback to then and now
Right.
of what the commission has done in the past as far as the efforts for Nelson's Grove.
Yeah.
And Long can share all the workload. So
Yeah, really amazing. Really was amazing. And the reason being that the person who did the survey, that we did a survey of all the area, and he happened to live up above Nelson's Grove.
Hmm.
And he had seen a picture of what, Nelson's Grove, they have the advertisements. You'll see it in the museum, but they had one on it. I'm not sure if it's there with the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers, but he saw that handout there and he says, that looks like that. And he went and did the research because he was doing the research anyway. He lived there.
Yeah.
And so he got all the research. And then the city was in the process of buying some properties, getting some properties. And the properties, they traded that property down there for another property. And so it worked out just perfect, and they had some money, and they built the whole thing up, and it was
That's
the
nice.
thing that nobody kind of does down there, anything down there. You know what I mean down there? I mean, they have the building down there, and recreated, but they don't have chores.
But I thought we could find the key, which we talked about before.
Yeah, and I know who has
You
it.
know who has it? Okay.
Yeah,
I can't remember if we,
the
as
city-
if we do, who
the
has it.
city managers have, they have one.
So,
Because
so I
I
think it'd be cool to
city
kind of
manager, but
I have the list of these tours.
they both of them. Parks and Recreation
Okay.
have these.
Okay.
Cool.
But anyway, I just, one day I went in and the lady office said, would you be willing to go down and get the tours? Nelson Grove, and I said, sure, so she put me on there. In fact, I got a call from somebody the other day wanting to get into Nelson Grove. But I didn't have the time.
Maybe that's what we could talk about with parks.
They just changed it.
Public works.
Yeah.
Tours, maybe doing those tours. Who's responsible for those tours?
But they just had people call me and say, could I have a schedule a time to come in and we take them through and show.
It'd be great for youth groups or scout groups.
Yeah.
Which aren't as many, but they still have.
And I think that's ties to like, hey, we could show Nielsen's Grove, do a tour of that, and that can coalesce with, hey, the city's gonna be restoring this cabin.
Yeah.
And now we have actually also a method for people to do a tax deductible donation to the city for different causes. So they can even get involved and say, hey, well,
Those funds are all set up and. it's
yeah,
really-
yeah, it
it's
just went
all
live, I think,
set up,
last
yeah.
month, and so now people we can even suggest, hey, if you want to donate to the preserving the history of Orem, and by donating to the restoration of this cabin, or donating to, we could do tours at Nielsen's Grove, the future cabin is after it's restored, we have to still kind of decide what we want to do as far as programming. We've talked about going on a tour of some other historic cabins.
Yeah.
And kind of researching that a little bit.
And if there's any way of getting people to go up to the power plant. Or if I looked at the two tours of that.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. When we talked to them before, back to that neighborhood where Homestead is,
Yeah,
they were worried about the liability of having tours all the time because they have a personnel to kind of monitor that. But if we had a way to work that out through Parks and Rec or somebody,
There's the archaeology survey group. It's like a nonprofit volunteer organization. You go to national landmarks, historical sites that are being preserved or going to be preserved by the state archaeologists. You record, you monitor, make sure they're all good, and you report back to the state archaeologists what's going on in that area, so that we can get people to monitor areas.
Yeah, and one of our interns is graduated from the anthropology program, archaeology, and UVU.
they
She
should get
shared-
for your tour.
She shared some things on those interests as well. And there's another layer of student group, students that we.
BYU has an archaeology group. They have a really good archaeology group there. I mean, they get to do like the
digs,
Nelson Mounds.
digs all
and they-
over the place.
They just went to Jordan, and we were
We
in
were
the,
in the drone session.
and they went to Jordan and Mexico, and they did all sorts.
Yeah,
They do all sorts
they
of
go all
stuff.
over the world.
They love it.
They have that cabin
Pretty cool digs.
down at Nelson's Grove, or not Nelson's Grove, they have the cabin at the college down here for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And used it, and they torn that down, and they have a replica.
Yeah.
Supposedly, I haven't even seen the replica.
Just keep us going here on the ROS survey, and I brought this in. This is light reading if you really want to parse through it. This is from what I could find so far in archives, is the last reconnaissance level survey that was done for Orem back in 2007.
Wow. That's a long
And
time
then
ago.
you can kind of read through and find out really what a reconnaissance survey, and that was done by Professor BYU Archaeology Department. And so we have hired the consultant. I've had one meeting with them. They'll be coming out in August to do their field work. So that is going to be August 15th in the morning. They'll be here August 15th and August 16th. So I'll be working with them in the morning, if any of you are available, I'm sure we could use, if you want to and are able to, help.
Which day?
August 15th is Thursday.
My birthday.
Your birthday.
Yay.
Well, I would.
What time would that be at?
So far, it's in the morning, probably, didn't have an exact time, I just kind of said I'll block out the morning. We have an employee, citywide employee. So kind of maybe, I was kind of thinking 9 to 11, if whatever they're with us to work with them.
Those suburbs are really good. Once they don't want to be.
Yeah, and the consultant's really excited to jump in. We've got, I think, a great consultant, and the project manager is someone who just graduated from historic preservation. So
Definitely email me about.
yeah, I'll just pass this on to the whole commission, include Brittany as well, just with the dates and times after I can that exact time with the consultants. And kind of as she passes around, how the reconnaissance level survey works is kind of just it's like a high level documentation of what is on the property. So you can see this is just an index basically of streets and photographs from the street of these properties. And so that's essentially what we're doing for the survey area. Yeah. And so, and I don't know if you reviewed some of the notes or minutes, but the survey area is from 800 north to 1600 north, 1200 west to State Street. So it's kind of that. And what we had done last year, as we settled on that, is that the state maintains a pin map of existing surveyed properties.
Yeah.
And we kind of picked the least dense pinned area as this first survey that we've done in 10 years.
And that's changed a lot.
Yeah, because that's what he said. He said, well, a lot of this area near Winco was not new construction in the last 10 years. We can already kind of pull that off and say, you don't need to survey that part.
Right.
So they said there's some really interesting neighborhoods and structures that they have looked at just preliminarily that they're really excited just to talk about, walk the streets. So I think
I-15 east or
1200 west, I think is right there.
Yeah, so roughly the front.
East to State Street. And I was gonna work with the consultant once as we get closer to when they're here, maybe walk around taking pictures of people's houses.
Yeah.
They'll work with messaging with Pete in the city manager's office, just so people aren't like, it's just
Who are these creepers?
who are these weirdos
Yeah,
walking, taking
it's just-
pictures?
Yeah, it's better than the Google vehicle that comes around with that.
I know,
Yeah.
just put it down the
Yeah,
mouse or
that's
Google thing.
that's
people
what
get
interesting. Comparison to this, I mean, I know Google Maps is probably rolling out around 2007,
Yeah,
but
probably the
the
free.
way now that we have Google Maps, we can almost
Streamline the
kind of
process.
almost like a streamline process a little bit.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
little bit simpler.
Right.
So,
At least the street view.
yeah,
An aerial, maybe there's some 7% of that.
yeah, no, aerial, it's like, we don't have access to the CIA, centimeter precision.
Right.
BYU has it.
Who's a good hacker?
We know they have it. They told us.
It's true, it's true.
They're like, we can track things down to the centimeter with this thing.
So that's that. We'll be checking in kind of once a month so far and we're doing this fast track. We're excited that we got somebody.
That's
there on
really
this.
wonderful. Let's look at this. This is 1950, 45, 1950.
And just to point this out, this is there's a whole shelf, 3 shelves in our archive files of all these historic commission past surveys that also need to be scanned. But
Send them up to Salt
so
Lake.
far,
Get another intern.
so far, this one I painstakingly scanned. So,
We're going to need a master's thesis or master's project.
okay.
History,
There you go.
public history. We'll see
Okay.
what they count.
Okay.
But
Well, we can talk about that.
set me on it.
Cool. Great.
Archives management.
Almost done here. Fourth is just save the dates. We can talk about these other tours. Kind of mingle those in the discussion already. These other historic cabin tours, we can go to Provo, Lehigh. There's one in Pleasant Grove. And there's one in Highland where I grew up. I believe there's one in Alpine as well. We can see what the bandwidth is to go to one or two, or
This is the place.
This- yeah, I was like-
those.
hey, let's ride further historic 25th Street.
Yeah.
Walk historic
There you
25th Street.
go. Yeah, well,
So-
personal tour.
Yeah, seriously.
Good
Down
job.
Down there.
I've been there about 4 years. It's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that one too.
Oh, that's fine.
So I don't know
Probably.
if I may, Lon, would you be willing to, when we can pin out the dates and time, would you be willing to do that tour for us?
Sure.
Because of your
Expertise.
expertise and first-hand knowledge.
That's right.
I'd be delighted.
Okay,
Just like the firefly.
I'll reach out to Public Works and our capital projects person. I believe he's kind of over he has maybe some contextual knowledge about the cabin, and see what dates we can pin out for that. And I'll follow up with the email on that one. And then I don't know, last year we did meet in July. So it was kind of between two holidays. So if there's an interest, like we did in April, to do a tour instead, if that's of interest, or if we want to kind of push that back to when it's a little cooler, maybe not so hot, I don't know, whatever the commission is.
Did they give you a really good tour?
Homestead? Yeah, it was
That was awesome.
That place is fascinating.
fascinating.
And some of that's already on the historic preservation.
The plant itself is, I'm not sure about the classroom building. So I think we can maybe, what do we all think about July? You want to do a tour? You want to kind of not meet?
I think it's probably be fun, less stressful, kind of less commitment.
Okay.
If you're missing like a tour, it's less vital than one of these
Any
meetings.
preference? Do you want to try to do the cabin? You want to try to do the other historic cabins? We can reach out to see if I can arrange something really high. Provo maybe. I don't know if that's
If we do the Nielsen Grove, that would be awesome, but
Yeah.
it depends on whether or not we can.
I think that's closest, so maybe that's when we start with, yeah.
Have those places before
All the lots.
State Street on that.
Yeah, you got a little walk on it, right? If you don't want to eat, you can walk anyway.
Okay.
That used to be.
Those parks always have a lot of key second figure or cut.
There was a few rooms.
They
That's
do.
right.
You know,
That would be a
the
job.
Planet Earth.
It goes within hours, right? Every
Sometimes they're-
If you don't really keep
They-
them.
they were-
This is where my dad has a good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
So
Why?
suggestion for Nielsen's Grove.
I would.
I'll reach out to them first and we'll see. I think we can arrange a tour of Nielsen's Grove. Maybe we want to do it like last year, probably in April, last meeting. In lieu of our meeting, same day-ish, or to see what works out with what we can figure
I'm
out.
out of town on the 18th. Just
Okay.
family things. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Anytime in July.
I'll throw out
otherwise
maybe
I'm
2 or
back.
3 dates and you can see who can come.
Yeah.
See what
I'm
we can arrange.
in and out of town through July, so,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
throw it
This is
out
the
there.
month where I'm
It's
out of
a
town.
normal holiday vacation kid thing.
Is there anything that we need to do to start getting stuff ready or preparing or gathering things for the display with the fairground?
I was gonna say, I think with what you wrote up, we could create a timeline. Do you want to create a timeline of what we, yeah. And, once we find out about funds and, I'll follow back up with the interior design kind of status as far as, what's the timeline on that? Last night, they told me that they hadn't even kind of brought the interior design team together yet. And I hadn't started.
So we're not too far behind the volume.
We're not too far behind the ball, I don't think.
I'm
But,
after trying to catch up.
well, yeah.
Well, I don't want them to like
You know,
get going and then we're like, hey, remember we want you to do this too, you know.
when they
kind of-
did the Orem days, you know, the summer fest, used to be called Summer Fest.
Right.
They used to put a booth up.
That, so another commission did that, and we actually got a really cool, I don't know if it's their logo on it or if it's just more an own logo, but we got a little canopy.
And
And
then
they did a booth at this most recent Orem Fest and
and
then
then
resources.
what I did is I set those slides that I had and
So
showed those
cool.
to people who were interested in one.
So, yeah, the council member Kelka kind of made us seed money. We could say, hey, you want to donate to this then and now,
Yeah.
just, you know, to preserving Orem history.
And if you get something like
Ways
that
you can do that.
and have it out at that time, you can really sell a lot.
Yeah,
The farmer's markets.
it's going on every Wednesday.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can see if we can get a booth.
And I know the Senior Citizen Center had copies of the old book, and I don't know if it was Lorraine Yance who was one of the authors of that one. And the Geneva Times actually was the publisher back in the day. And this has been probably 40 years ago.
One, there was a book published with September
Yeah, that's true
as
too.
well, and that's, I was
So there's
talking to
probably a
somebody
lot.
about that as
We
well.
just need to tap into all of those. Let's see if we have something digital format or digital something. that keeps in and-
It'd be cool, like, you could just have a couple samples of, like, I'm thinking of, I'm gonna date myself too, Bill and I, like, did you know that? But it's like, did you know that? It's like, if this is like, here's a photograph of Orem's history, you know, we could have caption, right? Have some of your photographs that we already have access to, or some of the photographs from the old museum that we could pull, and we could highlight, you know, some of those cool photographs from the museum.
You know, but did you remember the book that Orem City put out, you know, that little brown book I'm trying to. It's a hardback copy. And they had them down at the museum and they were selling them.
Oh, was that? I don't know.
And it was the history and so on that they did it. They did that book and then all of the library did it, took all of the material that they did for the book. And they just packed it up and threw it away. Yeah, they did that. They didn't keep any of the material they did for the book. So just,
Hopefully they digitized it somehow.
Or at least there's some bibliography and
Yeah.
source and the
I
data.
love going through bibliography.
Well, that's
I'll bring what I have home. Yeah, so
often how I build my libraries. Is go with the
I have
author's
several
source.
books.
Okay,
Whenever we need it.
so I will find out about the display, let you know the status.
If anybody know, like, has any cool things that have been on that they think should be on the timeline? Sure.
Because I think we could do the timeline, I think we create like 3 suggestions to send to the, I think that's what we proposed.
Yeah.
With here, those 3 suggestions and some examples. We can see, say this is our idea.
Make it look pretty.
Where, and if they can
Use
help
that as
us.
a theme and then they can kind of create.
Yeah, if
I
that's
sure
in,
hope they can make.
that's
it
in the
look pretty.
budget. That's like, hey, like I say, oh, that's not the budget, but maybe they can help us. But yeah, I think
Brent Sumner from Brent the paper.
so.
So it has been
Is
Orem,
that
has been
on the-
digitized by UVU.
Okay.
Let me check on the other one.
It was the Orem and he was,
Okay.
The,
he were in that. He's
Former
got
councilman.
all of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'm sure most of it's messages.
Yeah. In fact, our,
But Brent Sumner has everything.
the blanket lady who's the one from Orem, she's the summer. Oh, actually, Miki Couture.
That blanket.
Her maiden name,
The blanket.
sorry,
lady.
her maiden name is Sumner. She's Brent's sister.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Sorry. The blanket lady. So I'm bad with, I have to think for a second.
Okay, we all know they're
They
eventually.
have
We're good.
every,
Sorry.
I'm sure they've got Brent.
We were all just like,
Yeah,
We had to be saying we have issues.
Into that brown book.
Yeah, I'll call.
Okay.
Because it have to, I don't. That's-
No, maybe it is.
Maybe it is, I'll have to,
It happened.
it was, they had it, all of the pioneers and everybody got together. And they put it together. So I'll call you with the name of it.
And I've been trying, the personal project I've been doing, this is very self-actually support, but I'm trying to compile historic maps of the town. And then do an overlay, similar photographic overlay that shows. With all,
You know, Google Maps does.
Yeah, it happened.
At
They
the time,
digitize.
yeah, they
Give
do.
you.
Yeah, I have,
So to connect that to the older maps.
and they were selling those down at,
Yeah.
Little things are digitized.
and Clyde Weeks did a book.
Okay, I didn't,
Clyde Weeks was,
well, get these,
Clyde Weeks was,
the photos.
I'll have to show you what I have. Clyde
Rich-
Weeks was the,
Does Richard have that? Does Richard Weeks have his dad's stuff? Or
what's that?
does Richard Weeks, the son of Clyde, does he, wonder if he has his dad's
I
stuff?
don't know, but I got his book.
Oh, you have, okay.
I
Copy.
have the book, and Clyde Weeks used to be the only, the one that did all of the mail, you know.
He was the postmaster.
did
He was
the-
postmaster here for years and years.
UVU has it. I don't know if they're digitized. They have Orem Postal People, 1898 to 1988, and Sagebrush is still Orem.
I've seen that.
Orem's a general history,
Clyde Weeks.
and then
He was a
the
cool
post office
postmaster.
wore into the Nuggets town.
That's probably stuff.
Yeah, lots of stuff. Yeah, it's Clyde Weeks.
Cool.
I'd like to know all the old.
And his son Richard is last. And then I know his daughter. You know.
Kyle Mason.
Yeah, kind of like the preserving Orem's history could be like the webpage, that is the collections of books.
And if they're digitized, you can just have links to the library.
I know like sometimes for like UV, you have to have like an access code for UV's stuff.
But they might be able to set some.
Maybe we can put it in our library.
Interload something.
You know,
Here's
I
what I
put
thought.
out a calendar too.
May is Historic Preservation Month,
Mhm.
so we kind of maybe could next year in May
Push that.
work with the library to do a cool like
They're always in cute
Orem
displays.
history display, or maybe on the date,
Yeah, easy to add.
date of our.
We put out,
Or
remember when
webpage.
the church, LDS church had their bicentennial, not bicentennial, maybe it was.
Assessment Centennial.
Yeah, the church had it. And I took a lot of the photos and had it, put it into the calendar. And we put the calendar out and we were selling it.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Way cool.
And I put the calendar out and had it, you know, for the year. And and one of the people who were in the shop over here, you know, and working, once they finished, you know, the year ended, she said, nobody wants this anymore. So she threw them all out and
Oh,
got rid of them. But I have several copies.
Good.
That I
There you
gave
go.
her. But she just threw them away because she said nobody wants to
Well,
look at them.
let's reissue a new edition of it. Yeah,
But that would be fun to do some of that.
that'd be really cool.
So anyway, I'll bring you
Yeah,
that.
that'd be cool. I need to bring it next time. Okay, think, want to get too far?
Do you care if I give you an update on my what's going on with that me?
Yeah. That was
And
much,
after the meeting, would be
this is a public meeting, it's recorded.
What's
so-
that?
After the public meeting closes and then. we'll
Yeah, I
chit chat.
respect your privacy. I don't want that.
Public meeting.
Yes.
Stand by.
Okay, so let's take care of the final agenda item is approve the minutes from the March 21st, 24 meeting.
I
Any motion?
motion to approve the minutes from March 21st, 2024.
Second motion.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay. Motion is unanimous. Okay,
I do.
take a. Adjourn.
Anyway,
Hold on.
I
Motion to
motion that
adjourn.
we adjourn.
what's
I
that?
We're
second.
gonna do a motion to adjourn, and then I can
Okay.
stop recording.
Motion, she seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Now you can